Alright guys, what we're doing today is we're tearing apart a starter for a international 440 diesel utility tractor. This particular tractor was made through 1968 through 1970. Uh, the intent was they were going to try to sell it as a construction utility tractor, and it just didn't catch on. One of the problems with the tractor was it did not have a PTO shaft on it. Now, the problem we've got today is the starter on this thing. I've had to tear it apart, and I've already cleaned it up a little bit with some degreaser. The starter was acting up. Now, I can tell at some point in time, this thing has been rebuilt. It looks like somebody put new magnets in it, and the bushings, as you can see, they're not showing the age for 1968. It's clear this thing has been rebuilt at some point in time. Now, I got this tractor about 3-4 months ago. No, it's not been that long. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks. And the guy I bought it from had put just a class 65 battery in it. Now, you can see that the starter looks in pretty good shape. I've got some pitting and a little bit of wear on this main shaft here. I'm going to be sanding this and cleaning it up. And hopefully, I won't have to replace this starter because you're talking about $300. This is something that anybody can do. This starter was only held together by 2 bolts. Now, I wish I had videoed before I had started cleaning it up, because it doesn't look in bad shape. But all this was all greased up. There was mess everywhere. So, after I sprayed it with degreaser, what I'm going to do is come back and spray it with, it's heavy, some, as you can see, it is greasy, some carburetor cleaner, just to go ahead and make sure it's cleaned up. But as I said, you can look at these bushings and tell these are not from the 60s. It's clear, as again I've said, this carburetor, this alternate, this starter has been rebuilt at some point in time. So I'm not too terribly concerned about rebuilding it. I think it was just dirt and grease that was stopped up in it. The guy I bought it from had left it outside for I don't know how many years. It'd been sitting out there for a long time. And a lot of the wiring was completely messed up. And I've had to redo that wiring and process of redoing the rest of it. But my main concern today is getting this starter back in operational condition. So that's what I've done so far. And I'll kind of walk you through how to put it back together, since I already took it apart before I thought about videoing this. I normally do Warhammer videos, but this is just kind of to show you guys, just because you're a Warhammer player, it doesn't mean you're not capable of doing anything else. There's a misconception with Warhammer players that they're all socially awkward nerds, and it couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of us do stuff like this. We know how to rebuild carburetors, rebuild alternators, starters. This little Troy built tiller that I bought, believe it or not, I stopped at a yard sale and I bought this Troy built tiller, which does run. Both of these, this rod and lawnmower, it's a Scott 42 inch that does run. It's got the drive gear in the back is broken. I've got to fix that. And this yard machines, which the engine is blown in this, for $50, and the man brought it to me. Now, how does that tie into Warhammer? Well, it's actually pretty simple. If you're in the shop and, you're being a decent person, a lot of the times that this stuff will come up, you might be talking to somebody and go, hey, man, I've got this car and I just can't seem to get the starter right. Well, if you've acted decent in your store or the group of friends you play with, somebody might say, hey, man, I know how to fix that. This community, Warhammer community, can bring you people together if you allow it to. Always remember when you're in your shop and you're doing things, Be a decent person. Now, that's not letting people run over you. That's just being decent. Now, as we go into this, I'll show you how I step by step put it back together. One thing I'm going to have to do with this is I'm taking some sandpaper. And really, you don't want something really, really harsh. You just want to kind of clean this up. And what I'm going to do is pause this video, go through here, clean this up. I might hit it with carburetor cleaner first. Matter of fact, let's do that. And yeah, I'm just as disorganized as I always am. But that's just my nature. What I used for degreaser was this gunk, and this actually worked really well. And then I used the gum out carburetor choke parts cleaner. Now this stuff is extremely harsh. Don't use it on anything that you care about the paint. If you care about the paint, don't spray it on this or grass. All right, guys. Yeah, I know I need to weed eat that mess. But this is just where I do a lot of my cleanup work, stuff like that. Okay, give me a second here. Okay, guys, I've got the gum out ready to go, and what we're gonna do is just hit it, just clean this thing up. And while we're doing this, we want to inspect it, and you can see where that green is. That's just weathering where this thing's been left laid out. And now I do have some burnt spots on here. That's a little bit concerning, and a lot of that comes from the guy jumping it. That's something that, if you need to do with a big tractor, you can do, but it's kind of asking for trouble, because what will happen is you'll end up burning your starter. And as I roll this thing around, you'll see that's burnt, this is burnt. If I do happen to get this thing turning again, I think eventually, maybe in a few years, I'm going to have to replace it. These back bushings have got a little wear to them. That's not a back bushing. The back part of this starter has some wear to it. You can really feel the wear in there. I'm really hoping just getting this thing cleaned up will do the trick. But anytime you're messing with automotive stuff or tractor stuff, you always need to keep in mind, sometimes the only thing you can really do is go buy the new part and be done with it. It's always good to try to save yourself a little bit of money, but that's not always the case. It doesn't always work. I'm hoping, being that this thing has been rebuilt at some point in time, that just cleaning it up, greasing it up pretty good, is going to solve all the issues that I'm having. But again, you just don't never know with this. The one bad thing about this is, being it's a 1968, 1970, and I say that because all the tags are worn off of it. You can't read any of the tags on this tractor besides the side one, which I know it's a International 440 diesel utility tractor, 6-cylinder. Now, when it comes down to parts, one good thing about a lot of these tractors and tractor companies is, even though they discontinue the model, they'll still use the same starter and parts and engines, but a lot of times just change the name on it. Now, as you can see, as I'm spraying this stuff, I'm actually cleaning it out pretty good. Now, this stuff, again, is really, really harsh. It is also very flammable, so don't have open flames near it. I hope you don't care about the grass wherever you're spraying this stuff, because it will kill your grass. But again, this is just something that has to be done. Now, if you look down in there, you'll see all that gunk. That's how the whole thing looked. It's going to take a few minutes to get this cleaned out and cleared out. When I do, I'm going to pause the video, because all I'm going to be doing is spraying clean in here, taking the Scott's paper towels, which is the brand I always use when it comes down to cleaning up any kind of automotive problems. These shop towels are actually really, really good. I use them with 3D printing, and I use them with Warhammer also. Keep something in mind, guys. No matter what you do in your life, whether you're a plumber, mechanic, shade tree mechanic, computer specialist, whatever, all these things have crossovers to your hobby. Sometimes I've used stuff I learned in plumbing to handle problems with LP gas or gas flow on my tractor, electrical work. All these things tie in. And how that ties into your hobby is a lot of the skills you learn and equipment and parts you use, you'll find can travel over to your hobby. Just keep an open mind, think about what you're doing and how it can benefit you. Now, if you're tearing apart one of these and you get a little frustrated, just walk off. Don't beat it into submission with a hammer, which I used to do when I was younger. Just walk off, take your time, and then come back to it. But I'm going to pause this video right here and go ahead and start trying to clean this up. And I don't think you guys want to see me using shop towels for 30 minutes. Now, something with this, guys, I want to kind of tell you about. I took that starter up to a shop, and the shop wanted to charge me $160 to rebuild that starter. Now, as I've already showed you, the bushings inside were not bad. I keep wanting to say something different. The starter was really not in that bad a shape. So you have to be careful. Sometimes it's worth trying it yourself. Now, if I had taken this thing apart and the bushings were gone and it was heavily damaged, chances are what I'd done is just bought a new one. A new one will run you anywhere from $143 to $250. Just depends on where you go. Napa has been my go-to for tractor parts. They seem to have an easier time getting them. AutoZone, don't waste your time. Advanced, don't waste your time. Generally, I like to go to Napa, and because a lot of these Napa stores will actually have older employees that have mechanical experience. These other stores are just hiring whoever walks in the door, and most of the time they have no mechanical experience. They have no desire to look anything up, and it's a waste of time of asking. Matter of fact, in my local Napa store, I went in there and there were some younger guys working at the counter. And what I did was I just left because in talking to the older man that generally works there, anytime I come in and ask about tractor parts, he'll pull out a book from underneath the counter and start flipping through it and looking for it, trying to help me. The younger guys in the shop won't even bother about looking up the old book. If it's not on Google, they're done. They don't want to look at anything, they don't want to try. And I think there are some younger people out there who do want to try and want to try to do better, but there's a lot that just don't have any desire to do anything. And I keep hearing, well, it's the pay, it's the pay, it's the pay. That's true to an extent. But if you want better pay and better opportunities, you've got to work for them. If you are in a automotive parts store and you don't know anything about the job, try to watch some videos, educate yourself a little bit, and maybe you'll be able to move up in the company. But this idea of walking in the door and making $25 or $30 an hour,